Salutations, fellow nerds. I'm Rick Y, the Wise Guy, and today is December 31st, 2024. Well, technically it's still the 30th, but it's probably not going to be seen by many of you until the 31st. It is the last remaining day of 2024, and tomorrow marks our first steps into a new year. And for some of you, possibly a whole new world. But I also thought that it would be apropos to take this time to mention the late Jimmy Carter and American Decency. So if you enjoy news, history, and just Americana in general, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. It's good to have you. Sit a spell. Take your shoes off. As I'm sure y'all have heard, the 39th President of the United States, Jimmy Carter, has passed away on the 29th at the age of 100. Just 2 days ago, at the time of this video. And I must admit that Jimmy Carter was always one of those strange men who will probably be respected more posthumously, more than he ever had been while he was alive. I hope you're happy. But in no way does that diminish how highly he is spoken of, even today. He was well ahead of his time in a lot of foundational ways, and he carried a humility to all of this that many folks underappreciated. On June 20th, 1979, Jimmy Carter held a dedication ceremony for the installation of solar panels on the White House. And this is well before anyone gave a damn about global warming or any of that. Jimmy Carter was already pushing at least the White House toward a greener, cleaner future. But before that, he even had solar panels powering warmers in the reviewing stand for the White House during his inaugural address. Granted, it was kind of a cold and bleak day, and so they didn't really work out as well. But Jimmy Carter's legacy in fostering a healthier environment for the future generations and their children was already on full display well before he got into his leadership role and got his administration off to the races. In fact, one of his largest concerns throughout his entire presidency was energy efficiency moving forward. During a speech wherein he unveiled the brand new solar panels that were supposed to be on the White House, he stated, quote, "Today, indirectly harnessing the power of the sun, we are taking the energy that God gave us, the most renewable energy that we will ever see, and using it to replace our dwindling supplies of fossil fuels." Indeed, Carter was concerned not only for the future of the environment, but he was also concerned for the security of the United States, given our massive dependence on oil at the time. You see, just 4 years prior, the Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC, placed a total oil embargo on any countries that supported Israel during the Yom Kippur War. And because of this, the price of oil skyrocketed by like 300% in what was called the first oil shock. American thirst for oil had been growing tremendously since Eisenhower put in a rule which caused domestic oil production to slow down, and our dependency upon oil imports increased. Jimmy Carter saw this as a huge problem and wished to reduce our dependency on Arab states to control our energy infrastructure in such a dramatic fashion. And because of this, he was one of the first to really try and impact our position when it came to environmental concerns. And because of this, his one-term presidency was overshadowed by a terrible economy and global dramas. some would consider his leadership falling short of an arguably impossible bar. Beyond those challenges, however, the one quality within Jimmy Carter that everyone across political parties could agree upon was that he was one of the most decent men to have graced the office of the presidency. Wearing a cardigan sweater during one of his televised speeches, Carter gave an almost Mr. Rogers neighborhood appeal to the Oval Office. But more remarkably was his diplomatic approach to confrontations. In fact, no bombs ever fell under his leadership, and no combat missions had ever been logged. Beyond all of these remarkable features about his presidency is the diplomatic approach to world events that actually prevented 5 wars across the globe. He was also renowned for brokering the Camp David Accords, which was hailed as the greatest treaty since the end of World War II. And because of his committed efforts towards peace and humanity, Jimmy Carter was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002. He led a short but exemplary White House when it came to being cool under fire. And he approached conflicts with the same qualities he grew up with on the peanut farm down in Georgia. And when he left office, he could have retired back on the farm, but instead he spent the rest of his physical strength building houses and homes by hand for the needy, even well into his elder years. He only stopped when he could no longer physically swing a hammer. He also remained lovingly faithful to his wife, Rosalind Carter, all the way until her passing last year at the age of 96. He represented some of the best of what we as Americans have to offer. Joe Biden actually put it best, as far as I see it, when he was asked what Donald Trump could learn from Carter. And Biden responded, decency. Decency. Everybody deserves a shot. Everybody. And it perfectly surmised the premise that we as Americans have tried to pride ourselves in: kindness and compassion to the stranger, the constant calls to live some kind of Christian life, not by the Old Testament, but by the grace and mercy of the New. We were a nation that opened its doors on Ellis Island and then ran to our allies' defense when they were faced with the threats of multiple enemies across 2 different war fronts. But Biden concluded by saying, quote, "The rest of the world looks to us. And he, Jimmy Carter, was worth looking to." I understand that many of you feel anxious and angry going into this new year. Some of you are just downright terrified, and I hear you. You're not alone. What I want all of us to remember are those qualities and values which made Jimmy Carter a wonderful man and a legendary president. The most important ways that we can move forward together is by doing so without sacrificing who we are and what our values always have been. And you're more than welcome to still carry on some cynicism. It makes sense. I feel you. But don't let that metastasize into hopelessness. Don't let it discourage you. This world has seen much darker times, and the only way through was the guiding light of dignity and civility. Remember the feeling that you have now, and dedicate yourself to doing everything that you can to make sure those anxieties are never felt by any future American generations. The only way that we can do that is to stay informed, stay engaged, and stay decent. Y'all come back now. You hear?